Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fiddler Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a really fun hashtag. So originally I wanted to do a video in which I was going to explain to the tarot community what my New Year's resolution in regards to tarot was going to be for 2024. However, a couple of days ago I was browsing in YouTube and I saw a video from Benny at the Fool's Apprentice, and Benny called this video hashtag Tarot Goals 2024. And basically it's exactly what I wanted to do, so I thought that it was actually even better to express it the way Benny did, and so I'm actually picking it up as a VR. So here we go, it's a VR to Benny at the Fool's Apprentice, hashtag Tarot Goals 2024. And here we go. I don't know if I can even fit all of these journals and diaries in a frame, but the first thing that I want to do, and this is not the first year that I start January thinking this is the year in which I'm going to sort out all of my, well, journals. I guess we can call them journals. And guess what? I never actually made it to the end of the year. I always try and sort them out because I assign very specific tasks to each and every one of them. And mind you, all of these ones are actually related to tarot. So I'm not even talking about, you know, your day-to-day journal where you mark when you have your dentist appointments and when you're going to the movies and when you have to go to the grocery store. I'm not even talking about that one. That's mainly, I actually store this kind of information in my phone because most of the time I do need a reminder, and there is this really beautiful calendar app from, I think it's Google, but I'm not sure 100%. I think it is Google because most of my email address come from Gmail, and therefore there's a function in which when you do have a possible meeting in an email, you receive an invitation, for example, you can directly save it into your calendar. Anyway, I'm not even talking about that. I'm literally talking about every single, well, journal really, or, you know, diary for 2024 that I use when it comes to tarot. And when I talk about tarot, I talk about my tarot practice. What is my tarot practice? Because I think that at this point I have to be very honest with myself. My tarot practice has changed and has evolved in the past perhaps 5 years or so. Especially because taking on a, let's say, a presence in the social media platforms has brought by a lot of, let's say, different ways to express my tarot practice. And so obviously I've been taking a lot more photos, I've been posting a lot more on Instagram, and then I decided to start a YouTube channel. And then, you know, I've also decided to start a membership program within the YouTube channel. So you wouldn't believe the amount of journals, or let's say notebooks, that I have in order to cover all that. And I think I got it. I think I sorted through all that. But it's still so many. So let's have a look. And this is my goal for 2024 when it comes to my tarot practice. So my tarot goal is to be able to perhaps, you know, be a bit more economic when it comes to the use of these notebooks and journals, because it's not very sustainable to have this many and to keep tracking everything in. Not all of them, because I don't, but let's say some of these ones can actually probably be, you know, combined, I guess. But let's have a quick look. So obviously I've got my Hobonichi Taco Weeks, which is fantastic. I've started using these, let's say these agendas, we call them diaries, agendas, a few years ago, and they're just perfect for just your daily reminders of, in my case, in my YouTube channel, what the videos are, you know, if they are for what kind of audience, so public or members only, and the decks that I'm using. So and I'm planning all of this. Obviously I'm not going to show you all of it. And then I thought, you know, because it's got this really interesting and quite chunky part at the end, which is, for now, it's actually empty. So, you know, this is essential for me. I really need the taco weeks from Hobonichi in order to be able to have a visual let's say view of all of my videos, at least in, you know, at least the titles or the concept of the videos all in one place. So this is essential, it's not gonna go. However, what I could do, I could definitely start using the back of the journal because of all of this room that I've got, and I could start using this to take notes on the videos that I need to film, for example, or, you know, for example, start putting all of these notes that I've got in a separate book, which is this one here. So this is a book of spreads, readings for subscribers and members. I've got in here all of the details, so I'm not going to open it up because it's got all of the questions from all of the members. So in my membership program, when you join my membership program, which has got 3 tiers, tier 2 and tier 3, so from the sunlight and up, so sunlight and starlight, you have the possibility to send me a question every couple of weeks. I do readings for these members every other Saturday, and they are, let's say, accessible to the 2 tiers members. However, I never reveal any personal details, so they are kind of private in the sense that other people will not understand if the question is coming from you. So because I have a lot of readings now to do aside from client readings, which I'm actually taking on a bit less these days because I'm very busy with the channel, I probably could combine this with, you know, just instead of writing on a different journal, I could probably write them all in here. And now you'll probably notice this is not decorated at all. I do like to decorate, you know, my journals, but in this case, I don't have enough room, and I just need, you know, to put down the essential information. So this is probably gonna stay very essential, but it's going to also show me all the notes, all the questions that I have, you know, to use in my readings at the back. So this is staying for sure. Then, as I was saying, this one I'm just not gonna open it because, you know, as I said, it's got new spreads that I'm creating, but also all of the Wheel of the Years, for example, the details of the people asking for a reading, the questions, etc. So instead of using, you know, once I finish this one, because I don't want to waste paper, once this is finished, I'm definitely not gonna buy a new one. I'm gonna try and use the back of the Hobonichi Tech of Weeks. And let's talk about this one now. So this is my pride and joy because this really beautiful cover is also from Hobonichi, and it's Tokyo metronome. And the reason why it's called like that because it's the tower, the Tokyo Tower looks like a metronome with this stick that you know, signs the time basically. And this is the Tokyo skyline. And the beautiful thing is that there's you know, this deer and a bear on the rooftop of this building playing a piano in this, you know, starry night sky, and it's absolutely beautiful. The concept is fantastic. However, because, so if you're a paper nerd, I'm just gonna say a couple of things. The Hobonichi brand has been using up to this year, 2024 included, for the January start of the 2024, because there's an April start as well. But the January start of the 2024, it's still the old formula of the Tomoe Gawa, the Tomoe Riva paper. So if you're a paper nerd, you will understand immediately what I mean. Starting from April, it's the new formula. So this is the older formula of the Tomoe Riva paper. Okay, that's very important. If you're a paper nerd, you will understand. However, Hobonichi, when it comes to the, let's say the 2024 diary, with this format is the A5, is not using, or at least that's what I've been reading in the technical specifications on these diaries, it's not using the Tomoe Riva, neither the new formula nor the old one. So what happened was that I was trying this, a milligram here in Australia, not this one because this is a different one, but I was trying the Hobonichi one with my fountain pen. I do use very wet inks. I have a lot of fountain pens, and sometimes, actually more than sometimes, I used broad nibs. Okay, so that's a major disclaimer because a fountain pen with a broad nib and a very wet ink can cause ghosting. So ghosting is, or bleeding, is when, for example, you write on this side of the paper, you turn the page and you see clearly that the ink has been seeping through the core of the page, and so it shows on the back on the back of the page where you've been writing. So that's called bleeding and ghosting. There's also another phenomenon which is called feathering, which is when you write, for example, when the ink dries up, it tends to expand and it creates some sort of feathery kind of outlines to the letters. I know I should probably have a couple of examples just to show you, but this video is just a bit of everything. It's not dedicated to fountain pen and inks. But going back to my choice, I do write with always with fountain pens, and so what I decided to do was to buy this one, which is called Any Other Day A5 2024 Agenda, which is indeed fountain pen friendly, and there's no bleeding, there's no ghosting. Even when I do use, you know, a broad nib, even a double broad. I even have a double broad. Who's got a double broad nib? If you do have a double broad nib, please let me know in the comments below, because you, at least if you're telling me, you're not making me feel alone, like I'm the only one in the world that uses a double broad nib, to the point that when I ordered it, I only have one unfortunately, but I had to order a special. I had to buy a fountain pen and buy a double broad nib aside, so I had to replace it. When I ordered it, they actually contacted me asking me if I had made a mistake. So who would want to use a double broad, right? Well, I do. In any case, this is my, let's say, where I write, as I was saying before, all of my posts, you know, for members or not. I write all of my statistics, you know, related to YouTube channel, and I also write all of my, let's say, I have a quote per day. That's another New Year's resolution, and so far I have been very diligent and disciplined, and I've been writing it down. I haven't done a lot of meditation on it, which I really promised myself that I would have, but I don't have time. In any case, this is your run-of-the-mill agenda for the year. So this is not going anywhere, because yes, I do need a full page per day, as you can notice, a full page per day to write all of my stuff. It's also because I don't always write while I'm using my reading glasses, so when I write, sometimes I write really large letters. Then let's have a look at this one, or these two. So this is my novel, and it's basically my outline, let's say, for one of my novels, and I'm one of those people. So if you're familiar with R.L. Stine, who's the author, American author of Goosebumps, so I was attending one of his master classes one day, and he is he's a strong aficionado of the outlines, and he says, I write so many versions of an outline that at the end of the day I actually send the outline to the agents, and they come back to me saying, this is not an outline, this is the actual book. And so he will be like, did I actually write a book, or did I actually write an outline? I'm not a dev level, of course not, not in a million years, but I do write a lot of different versions of the outlines, because I do believe in structure in everything that I'm writing. And so I use this is the old, I bought a bunch of loose sheet from Tomoe when they said that we're gonna change the formula. So this is still the old one. I love it, but I'm almost running out, which makes me cry because I tried the new one, don't like it. But I heard a lot of really good things about the Cosmo Air Light. So if you're a paper aficionado as well, please let me know if it's true that the new Cosmo Air Light is very similar in performance to the old Tomoe paper. Then this one, inks and inked pens, because yes, I am a bit of a geek when it comes to fountain pens and inks especially. There is a word in Japanese, it's called inku numa, and basically it could be translated as ink flood. And I was watching a channel that I recently discovered, but it has become really quickly one of my favorite ones when it comes to inks and fountain pens. And it's called Inky Rocks, and she's absolutely amazing. A lady that lives in Tokyo, and she's you know, going browsing the shops and showing us the whole, but she's very knowledgeable when it comes to fountain pens and inks. And so I absolutely love it. And in Tokyo, in Japan, they have this festival in which, you know, they really, let's say, they cater for people who have this really strong passion for inks. So ink numa, in the sense that the ink flood, it's almost as if they were flooding people with inks. You know, there's so many possibilities. And I wish I could go for at least 1 year, just in order to be able to see, you know, what they're doing. And these are just my swatches. I really like to swatch all of my inks and reminding myself, you know, which one I chose to write with which pen. And so that's not going to go anywhere. Also, old Tomoe River paper, also running low, also making me very sad about it. And then we've got this one, which is obviously a well, this is a Midori cover to a Midori. The cover is the A4 cover to an F2 Midori, because I couldn't find the F2 cover. Well, so be it. I love Midori. It's my second absolute favorite paper, and the notebooks are fantastic because they open flat. Unlike many other brands, they are fountain pen friendly, and they dry much faster than the Tomoe River, for example. They have a bit of the viscosity and the feeling, the tactile feel of the surface is a little bit more grainy than the Tomoe River, which tends to be almost glossy in the feel to it. But it performs really, really well. And so this is basically all of my videos. So when I plan to film a video on YouTube, I just write it down. So just to give you, I can't show you a lot of stuff obviously, but this is very interesting. So with my Sunlight and Starlight members, I'm doing a tarot reading course for let's say advanced, no, let's say medium to advanced kind of knowledge. And we've been working with, for example, with alchemy applied to tarot, and but just the basic, and then we're gonna go, you know, down the rabbit hole in due time. And we're also looking at archetypes and how to work with archetypes, you know, and also looking at exercises, etc. And so basically this is all of the videos that I'm planning and the VRs that I'm planning. Then I've got this one, which is very specific for my Starlight members. So for my Starlight members, we're actually doing a program that I'm calling Healing Step by Step, which is based on my practice of using tarot in order to process the feelings related to trauma and grief. And it's something that I'm actually doing myself at the moment. So this is just a planner, so I'm not going to show you because it's just a planner. It's where I write down all of the notes that I'm going to then repeat into the videos. But I'm also, I literally decided that I needed to do this myself. And so this is my actual diary or notebook that I'm using, you know, together with my Starlight members, and taking my own advice. And basically every time that I give out a spread, the specific spread, for example, I do the 3-card pulls, I do it for myself. And then I write down everything, and this one does have a little bit of decorations, as you can see. So we'll be talking about, you know, we have been talking about the cage, we will be talking about light, we'll be talking about the kintsugi. So it's something that obviously I'm not gonna show you what my reflections are, but just to, you know. And I noticed that when I'm upset, for example, in this case, I tend to write in Italian anyway, so unless you're Italian, you wouldn't be able to understand. Although now I can say that pretty much, you know, it's rather easy to to understand any language if you have Google Translate. So this is my, let's say, personal diary. So obviously I feel like I could probably combine a couple of these, but not that many. So this is my resolution for this year, my tarot goal, that I will have to be more economic in the use of journals when it comes to all of this planning. It's good that I'm planning these things, but it also reflects my personality, because I couldn't do anything without planning it first. And that was my first goal for 2024. Let's have a look at the rest. So let's talk about tarot decks now. I know that we're all here for the cards, aren't we? So a goal that I have, a tarot goal that I have for 2024 is to, originally I wanted to say this as being less indiscriminate. However, I don't want to talk about something that is a proposition for 2024 and introducing it with two negatives. So I've actually rephrased it, and one of my goals for this year is to be more conscious when I'm choosing what decks to buy, for example, what decks that will enter my collection. The reason why I'm doing that doesn't correspond to any, let's say, low buy or no buy years, because I know that there's a lot of people that start the year saying that they're not going to buy any decks or they're going to buy a lot less decks. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know how many I'm going to end up buying. That's not a target or a goal that I'm setting myself for. What I am looking at as a goal is to be more conscious, more mindful of what I'm, bringing in to my collection. So, for example, because it's easier to say that, isn't it? But then you also have to follow through. So I set for myself a few rules, and I'm just going to try and see how those rules work out. And if they do, then of course I'm going to stick to them, and I'm going to try and stick to them for the rest of the year. So one of these rules is, let's say I ask myself, why do I want this tag? So if I see it, for example, on Amazon, if I see it in a store, if I see it in a Facebook group, if I see it in a video on YouTube presented by someone else and I want it, before I actually click on the buy button, I ask myself, why do I want this deck? And there's a few reasons why I will still allow myself to actually click that buy button. And one of them is, for example, because it's a collectible item. So I have one of my most recent examples. This is the color Mage Oracle. So I don't know if you're familiar with this oracle or not. It's actually weird that not many people talk about this deck. It's a chunky deck. So this deck was actually created by artists, but especially painters, of course, but also people that work with colors. They work in the color industry, in the color environment, whether they're architects, for example, or painters, artists. But in any case, their lives really evolve around the colors. And what happens is that, of course, this is a deck about, well, in this case, I have 108 cards. I know that there's other decks, color Mage Oracle decks, that only have 70. I don't know why I have 108, because I got this one secondhand. And let's say it only came with the velvet pouch and these two introductory cards, but it doesn't necessarily, so it doesn't have a book, and I couldn't really find a lot of information related to this deck, even in the original website where they present it. However, I do know that there's a lot of work that can be done with these colors, the cards as an oracle, but also for meditation, for your personal practice. And there's a lot of work that can be done with the chakra cards, or the cards that are related to the colors of the chakra. So it's a beautiful, as you can see, it looks like a Pantone swatch. So you've got all of these colors. Obviously, some of them have textures on them, majority of them don't. So Sapphire, Regenerate Community, and this is number 52. And then we've got Chocolate with Indulgence, number 71, or Red Merlot with Relationships, and number 2, and so on and so forth. So as you can imagine, this is because of the keywords that are present at the bottom, of the cards. You can actually work with this deck the same way in which you would work with an oracle deck. You would just decide to focus on either the title or the keywords or both of them. Or you can separate the cards by color, or you can reorder them. You can decide to work with the chakra cards. You can decide to do pretty much anything you want. It's a very intuitive deck in the sense that the color themselves, you look at the title and then you look at the keywords, and I can assure you that even though perhaps at a first look they're not extremely communicative, however, they do become so when you start using it with intention. There is this card which is really beautiful. It's number 106 and it's called Sepia, and the keywords are old thought. And obviously it reminds you of the photos, the old photos that had this kind of a sepia look to them. And that's where your mind is triggered. That's where you start thinking, you start communicating with your intuition, and then you start building the thoughts around it. And that's a beautiful way to use this deck. Absolutely, highly recommend it. However, I have to say that this is definitely a collectible item in the sense that there weren't that many decks that were printed originally, and I know that whomever has this deck, they don't want to resell it. It's a very valuable deck. It's out of print, unfortunately, very hard to find. If you notice, there's not that many people around trying to rehome this deck, and when they do, it really goes up in 3 seconds, and for a good reason. I mean, it's a beautiful deck. There's no true reason, there's no choice around that. I don't particularly, this is something that I have to say because I have to be honest, I don't particularly resonate with it. It hasn't really, let's say, matched the expectations with which I bought it. Perhaps because I watched so many videos about this deck that my expectations were really high. I don't know. In any case, this is still a collectible item. This is an item that I was really happy to have found, and I'm very happy that it's entered my collection. Doesn't really work for me, but I don't regret having bought it. Let's put it this way. It's a deck that it's a collectible item. When I acquire a collectible item, if I really don't resonate with the deck, I know that it does have some kind of value and it can resell in the market. So it's definitely something that I will allow myself to do. Always grab a collectible item if I can afford it, obviously. That I will never stop myself from doing that. So that's one reason why I would definitely click the buy button when I see a deck. Another reason is this deck going to change you? And by change you, what I mean is change my practice, or even change myself, or give me the opportunity to improve myself, give me the opportunity to improve my reading skills, my intuition, my relationship, my connection with someone else I'm reading for. Anything, but is this deck going to change myself or my practice? If yes, then, and when the deck is not a collectible item, of course, in that case I would have bought it anyway. But in this case, I'm talking about the Tarot of the Crone because it's both. It is also a collectible item. It is by Lorenzi Prince. Same author as, for example, the Dark Goddess Tarot. That deck has also been reprinted mass market by, I believe, is Schaefer or Blue Angel, which is a subcategory from Schaefer. I don't remember. In any case, not the best cardstock, not the best production value, not the best price point. A number of things are just wrong with that deck, mass market. Mine came that all of the cards were sticking together because of the because of the gilding, the gold gilding on the edges. And many of them were damaged by me stupidly trying to separate them instead of just sending it back to Amazon and ask for a replacement. And now the damage is terrible. So I don't even feel like using it. However, the indie version of the deck is absolutely spectacular and I highly recommend it if you've got it. The book in the mass market version is top notch. It's fantastic. So if you don't have the mass market edition and you're hesitating whether to buy it or not, consider the book. The book is fantastic. Now, going back to the Tarot of the Crone, this one came, this is the indie edition. I don't think there's any mass market or any even plans to produce a mass market of the Tarot of the Crone. But it does have its own book, and it's this one here. So this book is not, let's say, it's not as mind-blowing as the book for the mass market of the Dark Goddess. It's still very good. I actually printed out a lot of stuff out of the website because it's very interesting. I do love the invocation, kind of a lyrical invocation that you have for each and every card. But this deck definitely, let's say, reached a depth of reading for me that not a lot of decks have. So this is one of those decks that I am so glad that it entered my collection, because if it didn't change me as a person, only one or two decks actually did that. It definitely changed my way of doing a certain type of practice with tarot. It is the Tarot of the Crone, so it's focusing on the Crone years, which is something that is hopefully ahead of me, but but it's something that we all need to be aware of, and we all need to also prepare ourselves in order to be able to make the most out of all of this incredibly powerful energy, this incredible wisdom that comes out of the cards, focusing on the Crone years. If you don't have this deck may look a bit, at times it may look a bit whimsical. I can assure you that it's just the surface, and it's practically impossible to stop at the surface. This deck will definitely, when you do a reading, there's a few cards that are very, very intense and powerful, like the Devil card, for example. When you do a reading with this deck, it will definitely reach out and, you know, drag you in. It's impossible not to get involved in a reading with this deck. It is that kind of, you know, 1 every 50 decks that I've got. That is indeed so powerful. So in this case, did I know that when I clicked the buy button? No, I didn't know that. I had an idea, perhaps I had a hunch that it would have been very powerful, but I did not know necessarily what you know, this deck would have brought as in value, you know, to my collection, but also to my practice in tarot. This 5 of discs is incredible. It's probably difficult. Let me see if I can zoom in, or at least, you know, do a close-up on the card. It is incredible because obviously disc is, you know, is the suit of pentacles that has been renamed discs, so it's the suit of the earth, and we know the disruption of the 5, so obviously the disruption in the suit of the earth is, it's almost as if something, an event has been swiping you off your feet, you lost your ground. You have a moment in which you really are confused, and unfortunately you were defenseless and you have been pushed away. That's the disruption and the element of the earth. In many cases, the traditional symbology of this card is to show you the, generally speaking, it's 2 people. You know, one is limping because they have an injury. The other one is, you know, it's snowing, it's very cold, they're outside, they're being pushed aside. So, you know, they're just trying to hug together. And they don't see that they just see this window. You know, and the light is coming from behind the window, but they're not part of the light. They're in the cold, they're not part of the warm, they're being cast aside. The way in which this woman is basically kneeling, and you can tell that she is grabbing with all of her strength. So she is so focused on this, and she's grabbing with all of her strength this element, which could be a rock. And she's holding on to this so tight, and she's squeezing so hard that there's actually some small, you know, rivers coming out of this rock or whatever it is. So it's that kind of wanting to hold on to something that is actually bleeding. Let's say it's a way I wanted to express this concept. And it comes after the Four of Pentacles, in which you're also in this situation in which you're trying to keep everything within yourself. But in the Four of Pentacles, because the number 4 numerologically is the number of consolidation, you know, there is stagnation because it's combined with the element of earth, but you're still keeping everything together. But this is the moment in which the disruption has happened, and you're losing everything. It's almost as if something that you have or you used to have were slipping between your fingers. No matter what you do, it will still go away from you. I think that this is, and like this one, there's many other cards, you know, in which there is so much to, let's say, meditate on, and it's definitely giving you the possibility to do that. So of course you can use this deck for divination if you want to, but I reckon you know, journaling and meditation are the best use of this deck. Apart from the fact that it's actually really beautiful, it really gives you that kind of opportunity. So do I regret buying it? Absolutely not. It's one of those, you know, questions that I ask myself is, has this deck changed you, or at least anything within your tarot practice? And the answer is definitely yes. So that's one of the reasons why I do not regret to buy. And then I wanted to show you something else. So you know that pairing up 2 decks or 3 decks or 4 decks or however many there are is part of my practice. It's always been part of my practice, or at least for the last, say, 16-17 years, which is when I started buying oracle decks as well. However, what happens is that most of the time I will keep thinking about a deck. So it could be a tarot, it could be an oracle deck. In this case, it's a tarot deck, but it could have been the oracle deck. But there is, every now and then, there's a tarot deck that comes my way that is so beautiful, so gorgeous, or it gives me so much that I immediately feel like I want to integrate it in my practice, and I want to use it. And I also want to find a pairing, a good pairing for this deck. And sometimes it's not that easy, sometimes it's not straightforward, and it also depends on the energy of the deck, because I've explained this in many videos in which I'm showing you my favorite pairing for the month. Sometimes it's not all about the aesthetics. Sometimes you really have to feel what the energy and the vibe of the decks are in order to be able to find the right oracle or another tarot deck to pair up with them. The Earth Angels is perfect for it. So I'm just gonna show you, because obviously I'm a visual person as well, and I do prefer to show you things as opposed to just explaining them. So this is, as I said, the Tarot Landscapes by Francesca Matteoni, illustrated by Yoshimari. You've heard and you've seen this deck so many times in my channel. It doesn't need any kind of presentation anymore. So I finally find the Earth Angels by Amanda Clark. I follow Amanda's account on Instagram, a fantastic artist, visual artist. Really, really love everything Amanda is doing. And when I saw that this deck had been released, I immediately reached, you know, for, I think I found it on Amazon. But in any case, by the way, for all of these decks, unless they're out of print, I'll make sure to put the link to, you know, their websites in the description box below, just in case you want to check them out, or if you want to buy them. So these 2 decks don't only go well together because they have a very similar art style, they have a very similar color palette as well. As you can see, in many cases, perhaps not all of the cards, but in many cases you would, you know, you would be excused to think that it's actually the same artist that has produced these beautiful drawings. However, they also pair up well because the energy that contradistinguishes them and, you know, surrounds them or is expressed by them when you use them is pretty much the same. So they do share a similar vibe. And the vibe that I find most reachable with these two decks is, first of all, there is a sense of a trance that you achieve when you're in your dreaming phases. So it's the kind of onirical status that we reach sometimes when we're dreaming, when we are lucid dreaming, for example. So it's referring back to that way in between you know, being aware of your surroundings and being in a dream. So that's the first thing that I recommend. If you have these two decks and if you want to use them together, just listen to the message that they're expressing to you, because in order to reach to this message, in order to listen to it and understand it, you probably have to let yourself slip into that kind of semi-conscious state or trance of, you know, the onirical way in which you approach dreams when you're actually awake. But the second way in which you can use these two decks together is also thanks to the keywords of the Oracle deck, because they are actually very communicative. So in that case, for example, it would probably work best if you use two cards from the Tarot deck and one card from the Oracle deck, like the most popular way to use these kind of pairings. And this way you definitely have the opportunity to focus on the central card, which is representing your focus point, what you need to understand, the concept of the message. So the message in this case is Beltane, which is about regrowth. You know, it's literally about regrowth and procreation as well. Beltane is absolutely the joy of the sun, which is finally rising, and everything that is waking up to its power of regeneration. And you've got the Knight of Swords, so we've got Beltane with that regeneration between the Knight of Swords and the Lovers, and it really shows you how perhaps this is an encouragement to the Knight of Swords to find again the reason to fight. The Knight of Swords is the archetype of the warrior. It's the person that is actually listening to their own motivation and not listening to an order. This is not a person that fights because someone tells them to. This is a person that fights because they believe in a cause. So it's an invitation to get reacquainted to that power of reawakening that we have thanks to Beltane and the energy of Beltane. And that is also present in the Lovers, because the Lovers is, most of the time, is the duality, the card of the choice, but it's also the card of the union, and the union that is meant to bring something new. You know, we always say that Beltane is the time in which there is that kind of also sensual kind of energy in the air that can be seen also in the Lovers card. So as you can see, it's a really beautiful way to look at also, let's say, not just your practice, you know, for personal growth, but also for divination. And so when there's two decks in this case, not just one deck, or perhaps I had this deck before and I was looking at the deck to pair it up with, that is definitely not a regretful buy, because I have a reason to buy, to use these two decks together, and so I have the reason to buy this deck because it pairs up well with this deck. And that is definitely, I will never regret a buy, you know, a purchase that has been done for that reason, because pairing two decks together is, as I said before, part of my practice, and it's also enriching my practice. So these are the, let's say, the main drives of my conscious buying year. So this is going to be a conscious buying year. On the other hand, what could be, you know, sounding perhaps unconscious, and that is something that I want to be better, I want to get better at recognizing, is when I just buy a deck out of FOMO, so fear of missing out, because everyone is talking about that deck and I really, really need that deck because otherwise I'm missing out. So I don't want that. I don't want that anymore. I want to become mature enough to understand that a deck, just because everyone is talking about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to become part of my collection. It may not talk to me, it may not speak to me, and there has been the case more than once, which everyone was raving about a deck, and I just could not see why. I kept on watching walkthroughs on YouTube. I kept on, asking people that had this deck, what do you think about it, etc. And I was going down a path in which I was really convinced not to get it, and then all of a sudden I would get it. That is definitely something I want to avoid. That is not mindful buying. That is not conscious buying. But you see the difference. So I have absolutely no problem in buying a lot of decks. That's not what this resolution, New Year's resolution, is stemming from. I just want to be more mindful, more aware of the reasons why I'm acquiring a deck, and then I need to behold my intention, because I need to show that I actually did the right thing in buying it. And if I don't, if I made a mistake, then I need to let it go, and so be it. So definitely no FOMO, because then, it ends up being a point of bitterness for me as well, because I'm like, why is everyone enjoying this deck and I'm not? And I don't want to go through that again, because if my gut feeling says, you're not gonna like this deck, it's not gonna resonate with you, it doesn't have your vibe, for whatever the reason is, I need to trust my gut, and I need to, because I have been buying decks for over 35 years. There might be, some kind of, I may probably know myself at this point. I mean, it's true that we change our taste, and I will keep on changing my taste, and it's fine. And I want to try new things, which is absolutely wonderful. And I keep an open mind to everything. But if I keep on doing research on a deck and I keep on thinking that I won't buy it, chances are, if I do, I will not like it. So that was one of my tarot goals for 2024. Be mindful of the decks that I'm buying. And another tarot goal for 2024 is to do, let's say, more structured deep dives of decks. So when I do a deep dive, I tend to spend a lot of energy and an incredible amount of time into that deck. It's not just your typical walkthrough, and it may show like that, it may appear like that, in the sense that perhaps it's only a video of, I don't know, an hour. But I can assure you that behind that hour that has actual filming, there's hours and hours and hours of research, of, even watching documentaries about something, reading books about something, finding my own motivation, finding my way around that. And I'm just bringing one example. This is the Yokai Yochi by Bybee. This tarot deck is fantastic because it is based on Japanese yokai. So yokai is a Japanese name for a supernatural being. So myths and legends, basically, which is something that I've always found fascinating, especially because they're from Japan. And so I started this deep dive into all of the yokai. So each and every card of this deck has got a different yokai. And there's, a legend, therefore, but most of the time it's actually more than one legend. There's at least a complete array of literature that you can read or study or watch or even listen to. There's lullabies, there's podcasts about yokai. So each and every card has got a different one, and I started with the Mage Oracle. I started doing this really painful, no, it's not painful because it's actually very interesting, but it is time consuming and energy consuming as well. So I started this work that I've done on the Major Arcanas, and I've been filming it and I've been posting it, and I've received throughout I don't know, I think it was something like 9 months ago, and the last 9 months I kept on receiving requests to do the same type of work throughout the minor arcanas as well. And I always thought, yes, I do, because I want to do that. It's true, I want to do that. But whenever I start, I realize that I really don't have the time now because it is very time consuming. So what I'm actually going to do, I am going to bring this in, so the Yokai Yochi, as a deck study. The theme of the deck study for the month of February for my Sunlight and Starlight members. So it's going to be, there's a few, let's say, membership on YouTube where they can focus on a deck. You know, you can do a lot of exercises, etc. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to start refocusing, perhaps with a different pace. It doesn't have to be, you know, done in one video. But I'm going to focus again on all of these myths and legends, and since I've got a couple of members that are really into Japanese myths as well, I think that is going to be really interesting. Overall, my tarot goal referring to this is I want to be more structured. So I want to show more discipline when I start, for example, one deep dive. If I start a deep dive on a deck, I want to finish it. And you know, and if I think that it needs more work, I want to do more work. So it really needs to be something that is reflecting a structure, so not something random, which is, you know, leaving a lot of room for passion, obviously, but with and good intentions, obviously, but when it's not structured, then it kind of loses focus, and I definitely want to avoid that. So that's one of my tarot goals for 2024. Do a number of deep dives or deck studies on different decks, and complete them, you know, and structure them in such a way that there is a beginning and an ending to that. And my last tarot goal, but not least, for this year 2024 is to expand on my series Tarot on Tour. So Tarot on Tour, if you're not familiar with it, it's a series that I've started on my channel about 6-7 months ago when I left to go overseas. And for example, for each and every country my husband and I were visiting, I was you know, getting to speak to the locals, asking them what their tarot tradition was, asking them if there were shops. So I was going to those shops that I was filming, you know, with the permission of the owners, of course. I was interviewing the owners. I went to, for example, the Kinokuniya in several different Southeast Asian countries, or in Singapore, in Kuala Lumpur, and in Bangkok. When I was in Bangkok, I also went to a witch cafe and I interviewed the owner of the witch cafe. I went to another really interesting tarot shop in Chiang Mai. I went to a very small tarot shop in Sri Lanka, in Kandy. I have been speaking to everyone about, you know, the reason why they read tarot, what the tradition of their country is. And, you know, it's literally just as a tourist slash traveler, more traveler than tourist, I wanted to see what the approach of other countries is, you know, to this wonderful, wonderful work of art, really. And it was eye-opening in the sense that it was always very interesting to talk to these people. So I'm showing you some of my Il Meneghello decks because part of my Tarot on Tour will be to try and interview the, let's say, the lovely people at the Il Meneghello store in Milano. So I'm trying to organize that. Hopefully they'll have some time for me, and it will be fantastic because I really love the possibility to have these kind of experiences. So I will be going to Italy. I will be going, you know, keeping my fingers crossed, obviously, and asking for a lot of good energies. There is a medical reason why I'm going to Italy, so I really want positive vibes about that. But I will take the opportunity to go and visit different tarot shops, different metaphysical stores that I will find both in Italy, and if I go to other countries I will do the same. So this is one of my most ambitious tarot projects, or tarot goals for 2024, you know, where I'll try and enlarge, so expand my horizon by trying to confront my tradition with someone else's and see what the result is, and I'll put everything on camera so you'll be able to watch it in a video. So that was it for today. These are my tarot goals for 2024. I would be very interested to see, you know, other tarot tubers picking up on this VR, because I think it's very important that we start the year with at least a structure of the intentions that we want to dedicate the year to. And so I think that this hashtag, so hashtag tarot goals 2024 is, you know, it's an inspiration. So let's see what your responses to this tag will be. So it's originally from Benny's channel, and I will put the link to his video in the description box below. But for now, have a great day.